Hi,
A
Shani.
female gaze. A man written from the female gaze.
Hi,
We
Shani.
like that.
Oh, there she is. Hi,
Oh,
Shani.
hello. Hi,
She's here.
Shani.
She's here.
Hey guys.
Nice to meet you.
You
Nice to
too.
meet
Welcome,
you.
welcome, welcome. This is the Ottawa Black Book Club. We're still waiting for others to trickle in, but it's fine. We'll just start. I got your message. You said you would leave at 12:30. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah, so you have a good solid hour with us. So that's,
Okay.
yeah. So welcome. So we're
Thank
talking about, yeah, I had the challenge I had was following characters. Who
Okay.
was who, wondering, okay, who is this person? Who is that person? So first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Um, this is the Ottawa Black Book Club, safe space, where we only chat with authors of African and Black descent. So
Mhm.
this is our 6th year. My name is Louisa. These are some of our members. So we keep coming in and going out. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for this book. The stories were very, very relatable. I did my postgrad in the UK, so
Okay.
the stories were very relatable. So I just wanted to ask, what was the inspiration for this story collection? At a point, I thought you were writing from personal experience because I was going to ask at a point, who is Shani in this among these characters? Which one of them was you?
I I feel like they're all like elements of me to be honest. I think the main story, I would say the main story for such time as this,
Mhm.
probably like 80% true. So it's an experience I personally went through in the workplace in the height of the pandemic, George Floyd, etc. So I think of all the stories, that's like the most real. I think with a lot of the others, it was kind of elements of inspiration from my own life, and then I just turned it into a story, or there's things I wanted to write about, which I thought didn't get enough, or haven't received enough attention in the kind of literary space. So the sickle cell story, Love in Crisis, and Blood and Ink, for example. I don't have sickle cell, I don't have endometriosis, but I thought they were very important stories to tell. And so I guess the inspiration for the collection. So the first story I wrote, it had a different name at the time, but what is Love in Crisis was inspired by me, a lot of my friends being on the dating apps during the pandemic, Hinge in particular, and one of my friends has the sickle cell trait, and one of her non-negotiables was kind of dating to marry someone who has the sickle cell trait,
Oh,
like she was. And at the same time, there was a young girl from my church who I was mentoring who had sickle cell. And so those kind of two experiences together was the inspiration for the collection. Well, the inspiration for that story. And then from there, I wanted to like explore how Black millennials are navigating love and dating during the pandemic. But as I went through different life experiences, the scope broadened to not just romantic love, but friendship, community, kind of family relationships. So that's kind of how it started from Hinge dating app.
okay. I don't know. I'm very paranoid about dating apps because I feel that we have serial killers lurking there. That's just paranoid me. I just feel we have serial killers lurking there. And anyway, I've heard good stories. I've heard good stories, but now I'm too paranoid for that. So why did you choose the short story format rather than a novel?
Yeah, so in 2019, I met Bernardine Evaristo. You guys
Okay.
probably
Better
know.
than Bruce. So yes. I've
Yeah,
I've seen her on social media. I follow her.
yeah, so she wrote a book called Girl, Woman, Other, which is a novel in verse book, and it won. She was the first Black woman to win the Booker Prize. So she won for that book in 2019, and she's been like super instrumental in my journey. And some of the advice that she gave me was in order to um, like good preparation for writing a novel is short story writing. And so that's kind of how the form was introduced to me. And I did a short story course at it's an organization called City Lit in London that run like classes for adults. And so that's kind of how I was introduced to the form. And I just really love writing short stories. So that's kind of how it happened really because of that.
All right. So the good goodbye. That's the very first story here.
Yeah.
I was reading about Jonathan and Gabby. And it's so sad how these were two people who really loved each other, and then circumstances pushed them apart. Because when I thought they were going to talk to each other, I don't know. I think because I'm such a big communicator, I'm so big on communication. I always feel that in life, there has to be closure, and that closure involves communication. But life has taught me that sometimes you have to create closure for yourself and just move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me see here when they met at the party, and I think they sent each other messages that were never delivered. And then I just went, so why didn't you just go to her house and just talk to her? Because in the end, they both ended up, yes, they found love, but they both ended up settling. Okay, so because I always say I'm a hopeless romantic, I believe that there is only one. How do I explain it? I always say you would only love one person, but let me rephrase that. Only one person will light your fire, and that person will not always necessarily be the best for you. That's just I feel. So in this situation now, they now ended up settling with people because you said years later, after people had forgotten how they lived before everything changed, they will see each other again. Him with someone he loved but had settled for. Her with someone she also loved but who did not make her heart sing. They would smile and ode to the love they had once shared as teens. I wouldn't want to be the other party anybody settled for. So talk to us about this story. Goodbye.
Yeah, so a lot of readers get onto me about this story. I could have written it two ways. Like I had a happy ending and then I had the ending that I would decide to go for. And I just wanted to show that, yeah, like you can love somebody deeply, but they're just not right for you and you're not right for them. And it's just sad. Like it sucks. The whole like chemistry over compatibility argument potentially. And yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to. I guess was writing. It's a made up story, but I guess the emotions in it were real. Um, and I think yeah, it's a story that a lot of people have kind of has stayed with them, have stayed with them, and I've had a lot of people with kind of coming up to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, like why could they not work?" And I just think sometimes like life is just sad, like as it pertains to love, and you in I mean I was at book club last year and one of the readers mentioned how the fact that they tried to contact each other and the messages didn't go was actually the universe's way of saying like protecting them, saying actually no, like you guys have tried so many times it hasn't worked out, and so you being older and trying again is not necessarily gonna have you're not gonna have that happy ending. And so yeah, it was a difficult story, but I also thought it's real life as well for a lot of people anyway.
Yeah, because that one I could relate to it personally. I just thought about it and I went, yes, there would only be one person who lights your fire. That person will not always be the best for you.
Yeah.
Because he might light your fire, but he might be toxic. And maybe it's the toxicity that keeps you guys. But sometimes we just want peace. We want love. We want appreciation. We want to be seen. We want to be cherished. We want to be valued. And then you just find yourself making peace with it. But again, I feel once in a while you remember and you ask yourself, what could have been? Yeah. Because when I got to that part, I'm like, he should have just gone to her house because she blocked him on different platforms. Yes, like
Yeah.
many of us do, but a simple conversation.
Yeah. But I guess with them, they had tried before.
Okay.
They met at university. They were together, it didn't work out. They like I kind of want to show that they've tried lots of times. So even though he could have gone to her house, it's kind of like they hadn't seen each other in yeah, like 5 years or something. And so sometimes I don't know, it's like it does more damage. So
Uh,
yeah.
I don't know. That story just got me. I don't know. It just got me thinking of a lot of things. It just took me down memory lane and just it was a lot for me. That very
Yeah.
first there, that very first story. Please, I'm opening up the floor for anybody who wants to ask questions. I know, Lola, you had your notes. So, Lola, just let me know if you want to ask questions. I thought I saw Lide joining.
Sure, thank you.
Let's see. She's joining in. Let's see.
She's in, but she's
Is she there?
yeah.
Okay, I can't see her.
Oh.
Okay, I think it's my view. Yes, Lola, please go ahead.
Oh, I didn't really have any questions per se, but thank you, Shani. The book is really lovely to read. It was a quick read, and yes, I had a little bit of trouble following the characters at some point, but I eventually got the hang of it, I think.
Okay.
So the commute, that was Naya.
Yes, that was Naya, yeah.
All right. Okay. So there were a lot of relatable things in each of their stories, like so whether it was Naya or Gabby or the other one that had the sickle cell sister, that kind of really resonated with me because I do live with sickle cell as well. So it was one of those things I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds very familiar, and just, having her sister sit by her bedside and crying. So that was really, something there. And then the guys, it just, for me, it highlighted how there is still great silence in the community of Black people, especially Black men, where they don't talk about their struggles. So I found Jonathan and David quite interesting. David is also Naya's brother.
No, David went to university with Naya. Yeah, they're not related.
Okay, so they're not brothers and sisters, but because at the end it sort of felt like they were brother and sister.
I guess they have a brother and sister relationship, but yeah, they're not.
Okay, all right. Okay, so yeah, anyway, David and Jonathan. David had a vulnerable moment with Jonathan, but Jonathan was not able to do the same
Mm.
with him, where David talked about his father's schizophrenia. And again, I can only imagine the struggles of having to live with that. I also work with mental health. So, reading that, and even though it was not completely highlighted, it was still there. And I kind of picked up on that. So to find Jonathan coming back later, I mean, he had his breakdown in Ghana and all of that, which anger is a symptom of depression in men most of the time, and people don't know that. So it was interesting how it kind of played out, and I really enjoyed reading it for that aspect as well. So thank you for the story. And then obviously the COVID, everybody's still having after effects from COVID, and I don't think that will ever leave us for a long time to come, but it was an interesting read. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Yeah, many of us haven't lost our COVID weight, so we understand. So I understand that. Yeah. So that second story, with the one with the men, when we spoke about vulnerability. Yes, vulnerability here. I was just looking at how, because I was wondering what it was. I put here, I said Black men struggle with vulnerability. And here, let me see. Though Jonathan had spoken at length about his regrets with Gabby, his ex-girlfriend, David has never known his friend to be this open, to unravel in such a way. He wonders if it's because he's had more space to be in his thoughts, taking time to be still. But he is rattled, triggered. He thinks of his own father. My father committed suicide. Is that what he wants to say, but he cannot. He wants to say that he too knows of the voices, of the long days in bed, of refusing to seek help, but also of the services not built with us in mind. So I know that I wouldn't just say a lot of just Black men. I think Black people in general. Yeah, I think Black people in general, I struggle with being vulnerable. I always admit it. I always feel there is safety in privacy.
Yeah.
And through the years, I have learned to compartmentalize friendships. So to get those friends that I'm really, really vulnerable with, I have known since I was 12. Then I just have the general friends. I talk about everything and anything. But I think maybe only one or two friends of mine have ever heard me cry. Because I just go, it's not necessary. Once you see me cry or you see me vulnerable, I just feel that, I don't know, there's just this thing it does to me. And I can't think of when I see people go for therapy to see therapists and sit down there and they open up, I always go, you told this therapist so much about you. What if they now turn it now becomes a topic of discussion somewhere else? I just feel once something very private is let out, it's not let out, it's not private anymore. But again, the question is, how do we heal? We go to God in prayers. You pray about things, and sometimes when you find, you feel, you just, life has taught me that sometimes a conversation with the right person starts your journey of healing.
Absolutely.
So growing up, I am always the person everybody comes to with their problems. And I remember my 40th birthday, somebody had called me to say, Louisa, you are like an ocean we all come to fetch from. We all come to you, we tell you everything. Who do you go to when you need to talk to someone? And that was a very deep question that resonated with me. At that time, I realized no one. And I said, I think I go to God. But as I'm getting older now, I'm learning to appreciate safe spaces where I actually get to express myself and say, okay, this is what I'm feeling. What do you think? But reading this book here, I understood what these guys were talking about. Sometimes you feel that there are certain family secrets you don't want to talk about because as Africans, we are raised to protect our families. If you talk about it, you are betraying your families. That's what I feel here. So I wanted to ask you, because I know you are not Ghanaian, how did you get the Ghanaian essence of this story? Because I've been to Ghana, so I can relate to a lot of this. But I was wondering, even the slang, I was like, Shani is not Ghanaian, isn't she Caribbean? British Caribbean. So all of these, how did you capture the Ghanaian essence in this story? And why did you choose to write about male vulnerability in this story?
So first of all, I studied, my undergrad was in international development and politics, and as part of my degree, I did a semester in Ghana. So I lived in Ghana for 6 months.
Okay.
When I did my master's at Oxford, I did my research in Ghana. So I went back, it was like 2 years later, and I was there for like 6 weeks.
Okay.
So yeah, I've had experience like living in Ghana. I've got a lot of Ghanaian friends. And so I think authenticity is really important to me. So I'd written the story, had loads of drafts, but I kind of sent it to my friends in Ghana, my friends in the UK who are Ghanaian, just to like check for like the language, so like the slang. Similar with the male characters, I checked them with my male friends to make sure that this was something that they would say. If not, I changed it, etc. But I think the reason I I don't know how it is in Canada in terms of the diaspora, but in the UK, and it's probably the same to be fair, but in at Christmas in December, a lot of Nigerians and Ghanaians will go home for Christmas and have enjoyment. And I really wanted to capture that because it's such a big part of like
Yeah.
British millennial culture. And so I knew that I wanted to write a story that spoke to that, but I didn't really know what the story was. So I had the world I wanted to show, like Dirty December, like enjoyment. And I knew I wanted to show like a black male friendship.
Okay.
So the first draft, I think of all the stories in the collection, this one was the hardest to write. It probably took me about 3 years to get it right.
Oh, wow.
With some of them, so like Reggie, I wrote that in like 2 days in
Okay.
Jamaica for such time as this was actually like an act of therapy. I wrote that in a couple of days. Whereas Gone in December, I think it was really hard because the main characters are men, and so there was that distance. Obviously, I'm not a man, but I also wasn't really sure of the story. Like it's changed quite a lot. And I think initially I found it quite cringy. And I actually when I got my book deal before it went on submission, so when my agent sent it to publishers, I actually wanted to take the story out because I didn't like it.
Okay.
Uh, but then I went through a really difficult time in my family to do with mental health. And I think it just gave me like the emotional nuance, which I didn't have before. And so, yeah, I think to me that there's a lot about this book that just kind of showed like divine timing in that it came out when it needed to. Because I remember I was like, these are stories set in the pandemic. I really wanted it to be published in like 2021. But I think I kind of needed that. I needed to go through certain life experiences to give more emotional weight to my story. So I think it made it a lot stronger. And just yeah, just through like my experience, and just speaking to friends, I realized, okay, like mental health is something that really affects our communities, affects our parents, our siblings, our grandparents, but it's not really spoken about in a really tangible way. And I found that when I was open about what I was going through, friends had been through something similar. And so what I wanted to show through Jonathan and Daniel and Jonathan and David was that the power in opening up and being vulnerable can be a space for loved ones, friends, families to open up as well. And that's like you said, where the healing can come for sure.
Okay. You know, I was reading here, I had made a note here where he was telling him, I am a twin, you know, it says David breaking the quiet. Jonathan comes to an abrupt halt. What? No way. For us, I remember that when I come from a family of a lot of twins. So yeah. So if when a twin dies, from stories of people who have lost the single twins I've met who lost the other twin when they were kids, I would always hear stories that, oh, when I lost my twin, I was always falling sick. So most times, yes, they would always have this. There was a man we had in my office, he lost his twin, but he would always tell us that his twin lived abroad. So it was one day I was talking to him. I said, do you have a photo of your twin? And he said, no, that his twin died when they were little. But he prefers to tell people his twin is abroad. And he said when he's lost his twin, he was always ill. So people said the twin was calling him.
Wow.
So they had to do some things. And then they had this necklace he wore for very many years as a child to protect him. Yeah, that's one thing I know they talk about when in the African context when one twin passes on, especially when they're little. And I liked the way it ended, where you said Jonathan squeezes David's shoulder and kneels beside him. And then for the first time in 15 years, David weeps. Each tear is severing of anger and regret, the start of a freedom from the pain and guilt that have burdened him for so long. He cries like he did the day he lost half of himself, the better half, his brother and his best friend. I feel that was a very good way to close the story. Yeah. For such a time as this, very, very relatable because, hold on, let me see. No, I hope I'm not mixing them up. Hold on. Just a minute.
The workplace story, that one?
Play story, the DEI one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I worked in DEI for years, and I know what I know what I went through. Look, let me see. Is this? Yes, that's the four. I think. Hold on. I'm mixing it up. Let's see. Oh yes, So that's the DEI one. Do you think that because now that with Trump eradicating DEI programs and talking about questionable meritocracy, do you think DEI will ever be 100% anywhere?
I mean, I don't think it was never 100%.
It was never.
But I think there are companies, there are organizations that are like fighting back. So for example, in a few months' time, I'm doing like a book club series with a network of schools, using my book as a tool for like D&I, with their senior leadership. And so I think there's still very much like organizations that are championing diversity and inclusion despite the wider context, which I think is important. Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it was never 100% to begin with. I think we live in majority white countries, like racism is always going to be a thing.
Yeah. Because I look at it and I go, I remember there was a job I had and oh, it was a mess. And I remember talking to the director and telling him what was going on in the team. A lot of the Black people had left the team because of the manager and the supervisor. And he said to me, "Thank you very much for letting me know. I'm going to talk to the manager." And you know what they did? They just waited for our contracts to expire. As our contracts, so those who could move left because those left, they left. Then they waited for our contracts to expire. As soon as our contract expired, we had no case. And the manager resigned and was made a director somewhere else. Yeah, so sometimes we keep talking about DEI, DEI, DEI. Sometimes in big organizations, especially like the public service, I think DEI depends on your manager, not the organization as a whole. For the organization as a whole, it looks good on paper. And then at the Christmas party, they get the only staff of color to stand in front, so you are conspicuous. And I see that as tokenism. I don't think that people are ready to walk the talk. The microaggressions starting from, "Oh, you speak so well." When I schooled in the UK, I used to get that a lot. "Your English is really very good. Your English is good." Even in my reference, her English is good. And I was, at the point I was going to ask, why won't my English be good? Remember you guys came, you colonized us, wiped off our languages and all sorts of things. Why won't my English be good? And because I look at this part where you said, on top of your usual duties, you are volunteering your personal time to talk about an important issue. You say that it's your corporate contribution. You think you are making an impact. You think you have been called for such a time as this. I remember making a note here saying, "Who asked you?" I read it. Yes, Nigerians will say, "Who sent you?" I wrote it. No, I wrote it there. I said, "Who asked you?" Who sent you on this errand? Who sent you? Then so patronizing here. Where is it? You have a team meeting. You and your manager are the first to join the video call. It is just you and her. It is just you and her. To drown out the silence, she says, "Is that a new hairstyle I see, Naya?" She mentions that a colleague from HR has hair just like yours. "You could be sisters," she says. No, it's a wig. I'm not mixed race with braids," are the words you want to say. Instead, you respond with an exhausted smile. But she keeps going. That's the one that pisses me off. They keep going. Keep going. It's so wonderful that you can that you all can what you all can do with your hair. I wish I had hair like yours, she confesses, leaning closer into her laptop as if to stroke your frontal closure. She is relentless. "I do love all your head wraps though. So exotic in color," she says. "You must wear them when we come back to the office. Are they colors from your country of origin? Nigeria, isn't it? Why do they think all of us live on a tree, branch to branch?" Patronizing. Please talk to us about this story. This for such a time as this.
Like I said, it was an experience I went through in the workplace. I worked in the civil service in the UK, and like very white majority organization. I mean, I had my people, which was good. I think it's one of the things I tried to show in the book, the importance of Black spaces. And I think that comes through, especially in for such a time as this. But yeah, I really wanted to show like the microaggressions that Black women experience in the workplace. So I think some of these things that were mentioned actually did happen to me. I remember, I think the head wrap thing, I think I remember my driving instructor said that to me one time. Are they from your country of origin? So I really wanted to show how difficult it was being a Black person in the workplace at the height of COVID, at the height of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. But also just the tokenism and the lip service of that time as well. Because I mean, I genuinely thought like I was making a change in my organization, and I did. I did make a change, but it wasn't long lasting change. And so I think a lot of organizations are very quick to kind of jump on the DNI bandwagon and the role that Naya gets in the organization. I got something similar, and it was a really important role, lots of responsibility, but being faced with racism, ageism, at a kind of, I guess, the level above me, and how that prevented me from getting the role that I created from scratch. And so it was a really difficult time for me. I don't think I realized how traumatic it was. I mean, a lot of it, I simplified a lot of it just for the ease of the story. But yeah, it was a really difficult time. But I think writing that story was a really great way for me to process what I had been through. And so it's very much like an act of therapy. And I think writing it in the second person, so rather than using I, which is first person, or he, she, third person, I used you. And that was inspired after reading Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. And I'd never read a story or a novel written in the second person. I just thought it was I thought it was like a really poetic, lyrical, beautiful style, but I felt that writing it that way kind of removed me a little bit from what I went through. But I think from a reader's perspective, you feel like you're the character and you're going on that journey. And it's really interesting because it was a very traumatic experience that I went through, but ultimately that experience is what got me my book deal, because I think that's the story that kind of holds everything together. And Naya is the kind of like glue in her friendship group. So she has a group of friends from university, from school, from the workplace, from sixth form. And yeah, in Genesis, there's a scripture for, like, Joseph reflecting on kind of his journey, and he says, like, you meant it for evil, but God, like, turned it around for my good, or something similar to that. And I really think that is testament to, yeah, like, having this book and it being out in the world. So a really difficult time, but it turned out well, thank God.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. I think when I went through something similar at work, I developed anxiety, which was really bad. Yeah. I see your hand up, Tosin. Tosin, go ahead.
Thank you, Louisa. Thank you, Shani, for joining us, and thank you for your stories. I just wanted to add to the point that we're talking about here. Just, being a Black person living and existing and working in a white supremacist world. Shani made a very good observation there, and a very apt word to describe some of the things we go through, which is trauma. And like I said, just living and existing, experiencing microaggressions and racism already comes with a certain slice of trauma. But I think when you are in the workplace, being the face of and the voice of change, in a majority white establishment or institution, it's even more traumatic, because then you are really confronted with the entrenched arrogance and obliviousness, almost a kind of willful ignorance of whiteness. And it can be so very jarring. A lot of Black people really started to become vocal, during the pandemic, during the George Floyd period and stuff. And I was one of them as well. And of course, not in an official DEI capacity, but just within my area of influence, my sphere of influence, speaking up, I ended up being like sidelined and pushed out, because I think change, certain kinds of change, it has to come from within. And I think as a Black person, interacting with Black people or being in like a DEI capacity, it is like you will be milked dry. It's so like what they keep taking from you is just inexhaustible. And I don't think we are inexhaustible. And it gets to a point where you can't save people from themselves. Like, I had to realize that and prioritize my soul and my integrity and my mental health and my just spiritual health overall, and create certain boundaries in the way that I move and interact in these spaces, just to maintain myself. And so, yeah, definitely very relatable topic, very relatable story. And I wish there was a solution that we could just, cling to and work towards. But when it comes to these like deeply systemic issues of oppression, whether it be racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, I think the onus really shouldn't be on the minorities to be the ones to effect change. I think it has to come from within. And then even in organizations, as you said, Louisa, I think it really has to be a top-down approach. If the push isn't coming from leadership, then I feel like you're just this hamster in a wheel that's, I don't even know what you're doing there. Like, even if you're able to do something, sometimes I find it's not sustainable. And after a while, say you leave the position, or the system reverses back to what it was engineered to be in the first place. And so, yeah, definitely sympathize and empathize with all our plights as we navigate life at this period on Earth. Yeah.
I think it's the lies that gets to me, the lies, the gaslighting, and
It's all part of it. Yeah.
it's for me. I don't get it. They sit and they just lie to you, and you know it's a lie. Sometimes you look at it, you ask yourself, yes, I know this is a lie, but I need to keep my job. I want to get paid. So I need to keep this job while I look for something better. And who is to say where you are going to is any better?
Yeah.
I think that this is the harsh reality of being non-white in working in the corporate world abroad. Yeah, Lola, I see your hand up. Lola?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so just agreeing with Tosin for sure. But I also think, yes, it does start from us and with us. And I think one of the things that I kind of encourage people to do is educate. Right? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of ignorance out there too, and we have to take back our power somehow, but we can't do it if we don't educate people. So that's really where I come from in terms of, there's a lot of microaggression, whatever you want to call it, and especially during George Floyd era, so even going back to the vulnerability of, Black men, Black women, anybody. I think vulnerability is a general thing, but during that George Floyd era, that was a time where I had a major influx of Black clients, because that was a confusing time for everybody. And I think everybody had just had enough. I have had enough moment, I think, for a lot of people at that time, right? And it was a struggle, but we have to keep educating ourselves and others, especially the ones who aggress towards us. And hopefully, change comes one way or the other. But yeah, it was again, as I said, everything in this book was quite relatable. The stories, everybody, every experience that each person was having, and it is relevant for sure.
Thank you, Lola. Shani, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, like I don't, you kind of alluded to educating ourselves, which I think is really important, but I think one of the things I've also tried to allude to in the story was how educating other people, white people, about their racism is exhausting, and I don't feel we should have to do that in this day and age where there's Google, there's ChatGPT, there's so many resources out there. Like, I don't think it's up to us. It shouldn't be up to us to educate white people about their racism. And I think that's one thing I really wanted to show in Naya's journey, which is reflective of my journey. Is like so she put out, this blog about Black Lives Matter and what it means for you, and then she was inundated with like loads of white people saying, oh my gosh, like how can I teach my kids not to be racist? Like, that's not my job to teach you how to teach your children. Like, there's so many organizations out there, so many resources. And so I also really wanted to like just speak to just the trauma of that time, but just the exhaustion of being confronted with the trauma of seeing George Floyd murdered, but then all the stuff that came with that. So I remember just being online and people talking about, I guess, bringing up or like reminiscing. Reminiscing is not the right word because it's not positive, but speaking about periods in their life where they've experienced racism, whether that was at school, like university, etc., even further back, like nursery. So dealing with all of that, but then being in the workplace and having to be like this D&I warrior, but then also from your colleagues wanting to be educated by you, like it was all like too much. And so there's a point where when she leaves the organization and goes somewhere else, she says that she hands in her Black Excellence card.
Yes.
And that's something I personally went through because I was like, I'm not going to be doing unpaid labor for your organization to make you look better. So one of the things I mean, I had to simplify it, but basically I still stayed within my organization. I just moved teams essentially. But my organization had implemented like this for interview panels, they wanted one diverse person on the interview panel. They like implemented it as policy, which makes sense, but in theory, you only have so many non-white people in the organization. And so that's more work on Black and brown people. And so I would always get emailed to be part of panels, and I was like, I'm not doing it. Like I just literally said no to everything. Black History Month was coming up. I was like, no, don't, I'm not involved. But I think one thing I did lean more into was supporting Black colleagues like on the ground. So anything to do with Black people that was instituted by the organization, I was like, I'm not involved. It's just to make you guys at the top look better. And so the group chat that I speak about in this story and in a few other stories, that was like a real safe space for each other where we would, yeah, like uplift each other, and it was a safe space to speak about the things that we are going through, but also I'm really passionate about like career progression for Black colleagues. And so I did like a lot of interview mock interviews with people reading personal statements, etc. And something I've always done. But yeah, basically I was just like, I don't want to have anything to do with D&I in the workplace. Like, leave me. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how they automatically think that once you bring up any DEI related thing, and all Black people will be interested in it. You go there, you exhaust yourself, you are burnt out. It's a thankless service. In the
Yeah.
end, everything, all the suggestions and good practices you give are not implemented. All they just do is they take the policy document and chuck it somewhere. That's it. Yes. Tosin, let's see your hand up.
Yes, I tend to agree with both you and Shani there. Speaking to the last point about education, um, I mean, if you're going to be a teacher, you want to have an open student, a willing student. He who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a child. Teach him. But I feel like when you're dealing with white people and white folks, it's like he who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. So shun them because, as you said, you're there exhausting yourself, doing all the often unpaid labor, putting together the slide decks, the presentations, doing this only to then get there and be like arguing, being pushed back against, being gaslit on the spot. I think I think anybody who is in touch with their humanity and who consciously makes an effort to reach into their humanity can just make observations about the world around them, and then the onus is on you to educate yourself. As Shani said, there's in this, we're lucky to live in 2025 with endless resources at our fingertips, right in the palm of our hands. So, yeah, if you're a white person, look into, unpacking your racism. If you're a straight person, look into unpacking your homophobia. Educate yourself about the experiences and the plight of people who identify as, the LGBTQ plus community. If you're a settler, look into the indigenous plight. If you're straight, look into, people who are non-gender conforming. I think, when it comes to evolution as a human being, you have to take responsibility for yourself. And yeah, so that's one of the boundaries that I put up as well in terms of having to educate, it's exhausting. Like you said, it's thankless. You end up being burnt out, and it is actually quite traumatic. It is because you wade through all this traumatic racial material to put your education tools and things together, and then being there on the spot, the token, is also a traumatic experience because you almost kind of come to realize the futility of it. I found it just absolutely spiritually exhausting on a soul level in an ancestral way. And so for me, taking up for myself and for other Black people and my future progeny, I dedicate my resources to the Black people. I'd rather pour into them as opposed to pouring into what is the basket of white supremacy. It doesn't hold. It doesn't hold what you're giving to it. So yeah.
Thank you, Tosin. Lola, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so I just want us to be mindful of generalizing. There are some people who are doing the work. Yes, there's maybe still a lot out there that, and that needs work. But when I do say educating, there's only so much Google can tell you if you don't listen to a person's lived experience. Again, Google is, yes, it's a very important tool. It's a very creative tool and it's very useful. But my point of education is being able to share lived experiences. Because when we don't share, when we just leave, the education to Google, there's only so much they can capture from that. So again, I agree with everything everybody has said. It's still a long ways to go, and God help us. But I think when I speak of education, I'm coming from the point of view of, yes, we can use all of those tools. And I do know that there are some who are doing that work, and marching alongside Black people or gay people or whatever the case might be. And yes, they may be few and far between, but they are there. So just my own thing is be mindful of generalization, and that, sometimes sharing your lived experience is more powerful than anything they can read online.
Thank you, Lola. I think I'll let Mudukwe speak, then we can move on from this talk of DEI, and because DEI talk, oh God, we can do this for weeks. Okay, Mudukwe.
Yeah, thank you. So I was going to say on my end, I'm guilty of educating myself as well. So I work for, I work for the Crown Corporation, and especially with the indigenous community. And, part of it, I mean, there were all these programs put up to educate ourselves, land acknowledgement. But deep down, to be honest, I don't think I put in the work. And but one thing that I did have that helped me was my daughter's friend was Aboriginal, and she had asked her mom had asked for a play date, and to be honest, it was more of a play date between myself and her mom, and through that experience was one way that I did educate myself on their plight, on their history, and so I feel sometimes we underestimate the effect of just that one relationship, just that one encounter, and how far it can go. So me having that conversation with her did give me, the desire, to want to educate myself on their plights, what's going on, and you know, don't just see it as another program being organized by the government, and I think deep down people don't see the value of why do I need to know the plight of the Black woman, or what does it add to me? Does it give me, if you see it as an opportunity to move up your career, if you're able to relate better with Black people, if you're able to work well with brown skinned people, does it really add any value to these people? And until they see the benefit and the value of this, I think it's just another activity, another program in the midst of all the things we have to deal with daily you just have to have add that one task of educating yourself on, the plight of the African person or the Black person. And, so for me, I think that one-on-one encounter can go a long way. Like Lola said, Google can seem very cold and very structured, and but just meeting that one person, and that one person, spreading the news or the love to their family can go a long way. So we shouldn't basically underestimate that, one-on-one relationship and how far it can go in educating people and changing their perspective.
Thank you, Modupe. All right, I think I want to move on away from DEI talk to lighter topics, because Shani needs to go at 12:30. Love in crisis. So I had put, like I said, I always write notes. I had put notes to self here, but let me see, page 79, you said, weeks before Michael and I had met in the traditional way, online. And I wrote there, I put 2 stars and I said, since when? When has meeting online become traditional? I don't get it. And here you are talking about, you are capturing sickle cell. And here she said, let me see, and he always made me laugh. Deep down, I enjoyed being the center of someone's world. And I asked who doesn't? And at the end of the story, where she said, yes, he didn't text me. Do you know, where she texted him, do you know what your genotype is? He didn't text me back. He called me immediately. I really, really loved that. So talk to us about this story. And I noticed that in a lot of in your stories, there's faith keeps coming up, Christianity. So talk to us about that, faith, identity in your writing, and this kind of romance. Because for me personally, online meeting is not traditional. Traditional meeting is boy meets girl. We meet in person, according to Nigerians, eyeball to eyeball.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
So with that, I was joking, but just to speak to the fact that connecting online is becoming more common.
Yes.
So of my 6 friends that got married in 1 year, 2 of them met their spouses on online dating apps. And so I think there has definitely been a cultural shift in terms of like where you meet people, but similar to you, I'm still an advocate of meeting people in real life. But it has worked for a lot of people, it just hasn't worked for me. But yeah, I guess on the faith element, so I'm a Christian. I wouldn't say that I'm a Christian fiction writer. That is a specific genre. But I just write from who I am. So in the same way that I'm Caribbean, so my family is from Jamaica, Barbados, and Guyana. My Caribbean heritage comes to the page. In the same way I'm from South London in the UK, that comes to the page. And yeah, my faith was like a natural kind of outpouring of that as well. But I think sometimes in fiction, when Christian faith in particular is discussed, it's very like from a negative lens, or you get characters who are just like really frumpy and just weird and just like not cool. And that hasn't been my experience. I think some of the coolest people I know are Christians, and I really wanted to kind of bring that to the page and kind of normalize things like that are a part of a lot of Black people's experience of yeah, like going to church, doing prayer and fasting for 21 days at the beginning of the year, your mum being part of like a WhatsApp prayer group. I just wanted to kind of show all of those normal things, but also show different narratives. So I've got characters in my book who are really strong in their faith, and then I've got characters who have left church but are still spiritual, but are still like grappling with some of what they consider to be inconsistencies and contradictions of growing up in church. So yeah, it's a topic that's really important to me. It's something that will definitely come up more so, I think, in future projects. Yeah, I think it's a narrative that we don't really hear much about, and I wanted to give space for that for sure.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna skip the next story because that one too is very similar to microaggression workplace. Summer, the lady bringing her sponge to work, and yes, and the other person saying, "Oh, I mean, but you don't have to." The same sponge you've seen someone wiping wiping his or her neck with. Really? That's why I see. I must confess.
Also potentially finding love.
Yes, I know potentially finding love, but like at office potlucks, I don't eat everything because I know when people, especially for people who have pets, not late. I've been to places. I remember visiting someone, and she had a dog. She offered me, I think, it was a fruit tray or so. Look, it was a struggle to eat it because I knew she had told me how, when the dog eats with them, sometimes while she's eating, she feeds the dog. Look, I'm very Nigerian. We keep dogs outside. Dogs don't eat. We don't eat from the same plates. I haven't gotten to that level of advancement where my dogs can sit on my couch and they eat from the same plate with me. Yeah, so I haven't gotten to that level. But I wanted to talk about Reggie quickly before we let you go. Reggie, how important is intergenerational relationships and the little things? Because here, where she said, I was overcome with sorrow. Granddad buying me soy patties with a bottle of ting is something I will never experience again. It seems so little, but it is so deep. The little things. How
Yeah.
important that story, Reggie. I liked that story. It was deep.
Thank you. I think that's probably like maybe one of my favorite stories.
Mhm.
So my granddad passed away. So Reggie, my granddad was called Reggie. And I found out, I mean, it's a fictionalized story. Like I'm not that character. Like I'm not pregnant. I
Mhm.
didn't have a baby. But I wrote that story when I saw him for the last time before he died. And he was a really great man. And I felt like it was a really great way to like honor his life and his legacy. Like he still kind of lives on, and so many people love that story. So I feel like I've been able to like he kind of lives on through literature, which I think is really cool. How you can memorialize people through fiction. But yeah, I think intergenerational relationships are really important to me. So in the UK, the reason that a lot of Caribbean people are here is because of my grandparents' generation, so the Windrush generation. And yeah, like I wouldn't be here unless my grandparents made a decision to come to the UK and give us a better life. And obviously, the UK is racist and has all of its problems, but they gave me a lot of privilege, and I wouldn't have that without them. And so I think it's really important to honor our parents, our grandparents. In terms of like subtle details, I think it's like the deeply personal is what I guess readers really can relate to. I think there's a quote that says like the personal is the universal. And so the soy patty and buying the ting. I remember when I told my granddad I was vegan and he didn't quite get it. He was like, I remember talking, I was like, yeah, granddad, I don't eat meat anymore. And he was like, "Well, not even mutton." And I was like, no, granddad, like, not even mutton. And so, yeah, I think just those kind of everyday subtle things is a really nice, it's really nice to weave those things into fiction. I think everyone will kind of have their own versions of similar kind of situations, which they can relate to.
Okay. So let me close it with a short trip to Tesco.
Mm.
So there's a question. There's a place I put here like a massage. It doesn't make sense. Is it a question of masculinity among black men? Where this guy says here, he said he would be cool to let a man cut his hair at the barbers, but he wouldn't let a man retwist his locks.
Mm.
It's too intimate.
Mm.
Yes. So it's just like when you talk to a lot of black men, they will tell you they will happily go to the spa and let a woman give them a massage. And I go, but a man could give you a better massage, and they're like, God forbid. So that doesn't make sense. You are not a man, but make it make sense. Okay with a man cutting your hair, but you wouldn't let him retwist your locks. What is intimate about retwisting locks?
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, please.
When I read it, I felt because locks can be spiritual sometimes.
Mm.
So I felt like it was coming from a spiritual point of view, but that was my take on it. Like, because I think for some people, Lux is actually quite spiritual. So I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense from that point of view, but then it could just be any random thing. So please, Shani, go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, no, I like that. I wasn't thinking of that. I think I just kind of wanted to show like the toss that potentially like toxic masculinity kind of tendencies, but also I guess like homophobia as well. Sometimes with like some men, like you can get some really great loctician, so you wouldn't let him twist your hair because he's a man. Like, I don't know, you should go functionally where the best people are to like twist your locks. But yeah, I think I just kind of wanted to play a bit around with like worldview. So Nisi, who's in that story, I don't know if this was picked up by you guys, but she's a lesbian, and like yeah, her worldview is very, very different to his, but they have this connection. So that was kind of what I was showing there. Yeah.
Okay, because when I saw the name Nisi Nash came to mind.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I didn't know the full name was Venice. I didn't know that. I didn't know. Yeah, but I just wanted to ask that question because I was just wondering what's so intimate about locking. I was just thinking about is it the process? Is it
Yeah, I guess it is more, yeah, I think what Lola was saying about it maybe being like more like spiritual, and
okay?
it's generally something a woman would do. So like a woman like braiding your hair, for example, you generally get women braiding hair rather than like men. It's kind of the same kind of space.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Shani. I just want to say thank you. Do you have your book? So we
Yay.
can take our screenshots. Do you have
There
your
was, there
book?
was a question from Zenith. I don't really, because I thought so my book hasn't been available to buy in Canada. Is that correct? Yeah.
It's on Amazon. I saw it on Amazon. That
Yeah,
last week, only last week.
I think it might be coming from Amazon UK. So you're paying for like a
Oh wow. Okay.
delivery. But there is an audio book. Yeah, the Zenith asked there is an audio book. I just don't know if it's available
No, it's
in
not
Canada.
available to us. No.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when my next book comes out, I'll get more international rights and this book will be available. Yeah.
Just keep us in mind because sometimes we struggle with that. I think when
Yeah.
books come out, they get to the US, get to the UK, then they remember, oh, Canada.
Yeah. I mean, it has nothing to do with me though. It's more about
Oh, well,
Canadian
yeah.
like publishing.
Mm.
Yeah. Cool.
If you have yours, okay. Just a minute. Big smile, everyone. Thank you. Okay.
Cool.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much,
Thank you
everyone.
so much, Shani. I wish you could stay longer with us, but I just want to say thank you. Please keep us in mind for your next book. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Shani. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.